Alright, look, before we even start, it was completely on me to think that I could handle this. This was for an Art the Clown look, and I think I more so channeled his artistically challenged cousin. Look, I tried these eyebrows 5 times. Wasn't happening. This is, of course, following up my Terrifier 3 review video. This time, we'll have spoilers. The movie's been out for a bit now, so we're gonna be getting into all of it today, along with the other films. And we're gonna just jump right into it because I feel my face starting to harden as we speak. Alright, so kicking off our list, guaranteed this may be an unpopular opinion, but coming in at spot number 3, we have Terrifier 3, which came out just this past month in 2024. It is currently sitting at a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, look, placing Terrifier 3 in last place might surprise some of y'all, but it ultimately just didn't live up to the strength of its predecessors, even if it does have its own merits. The film dives headfirst into expanding the franchise's lore with a focus on supernatural elements, mainly related to Sienna and her father from the previous film. It also goes into making Art and Vicky the centerpiece of this twisted tale, a very fun direction whenever you have Art and Vicky playing off of each other, but it does come off a little bit too ambitious whenever the entity's like taking a more visible, controlling approach, and even has a bit of a talkative role later on, like in the finale and stuff. While it does open up new possibilities for the franchise, this approach sacrifices some of the gritty and realistic charm that made the earlier entries so captivating. And one of the movie's main strong suits, David Howard Thornton, of course, phenomenal, remains exceptional as Art the Clown, delivering a mix of humor and terror that fans have come to love. Then you have Sienna's return as a strong, determined final girl that keeps things engaging, but there's this odd sense that the stakes have shifted. See, Art and Vicky seem almost bound to like a particular set of victims, with the entity's control leading to like a 5-year freeze on their activities, which I'm assuming that's whenever Sienna was in rehab, so they just kind of took a killing break for 5 years. And it's just a really strange choice that doesn't quite fit the spontaneous violence of other films. It introduces a sense of constraint that the earlier randomness of Art's terror never really had. The kills, though, are still spectacular, as one would expect. The effects are awesome, and the deaths themselves might even be more creative than those in Terrifier 2, with moments like the liquid nitrogen freeze on Santa and then getting his face and limbs hammered off. That was a good one. The gruesome degloving of that construction guy's head in the attic. That one took me by surprise. It wasn't the scene of the movie like every Terrifier movie has, you know, hacksaw, bedroom, shower. This one was more of just like, you know, Art doing his thing, and it just really caught me by surprise. And then, of course, speaking of, like I said, the shower scene is the true standout where, you know, chainsaw up the ass. I mean, that's pretty bad. This one was a brutal sequence to get through. The scene still managed to balance the dark humor with the sheer terror. Art's playful side, of course, shines through as he decorates Mia's corpse with Christmas-themed sunglasses and makes blood-soaked snow angels out of Chris's blood. Though with that scene and all of the movie's creative violence, like usual, the decision to show certain deaths or like certain kill blows off screen, it felt wildly out of place, especially since this is a Terrifier movie, like Jonathan's decapitation. The lack of a direct, gory scene for a major character's death is a strange move for a series that's known for showcasing every gruesome detail. Of course, it is kind of left up in the air because they messed with Sienna once and said it was Gabby's head just to kind of fuck with her, and then they were saying it's Jonathan's head, so you technically didn't see it happen. It would be kind of weird for a movie in this franchise to pull something like that, but I could totally see it happening. The film's Christmas setting offers a fresh contrast, and its polished cinematography with all the Christmas decorations and the lights and everything, it made it look really stunning. The pacing and story can feel uneven, as if some elements were rushed or left out, like I said, with some of the off-screen deaths. The ending also teases an underworld confrontation for the next movie with Sienna, I'm guessing, going to try to save Gabby from Art since Vicky is dead, but it also feels just a bit too Hollywood. Something that kind of goes against the indie roots that made this franchise so well known and loved. I would say that while Terrifier 3 has a lot to enjoy, and believe me, there is a lot to enjoy, its ambition, shift in tone, the off-screen death just didn't totally feel right, and ultimately makes it the weakest entry of the trilogy for me. It's a fun bloody slasher, but it seems to be reaching for a larger story that just hasn't quite found its footing yet. I will give points to Terrifier 3 though for managing to push the boundaries of, you know, violence against kids while not being too distasteful about it. You had the opening scene where, I mean, you see the parents die in full, and the little boy, like, you can hear the blows from the axe happening, but you can't see anything. It really only shows you the aftermath, so disturbing, but it's not super in your face. Same with the mall scene whenever Art replaces the current Santa that they had who's gone on break. He gives gifts out to children and one of them turns out to be a bomb. You don't see it, but I mean, you hear it and then you see the aftermath, and it wasn't my favorite part of the movie, but again, pushing those boundaries without fully going over the edge is definitely something that isn't always totally pulled off in the best way, so I'm definitely going to give some extra points to Terrifier 3 at the very least for doing that. Alright, with that being said, moving on to our second place spot, we have the first Terrifier, not the 2011 short. We have Terrifier 1, it came out in 2016, and it currently has the lowest score on Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at a 53%. Placing Terrifier 1 above Terrifier 3 might seem unconventional, but the first film's raw simplicity is what gives it an edge. Unlike its more story-driven sequels, Terrifier thrives in its stripped-down setup, two friends, a creepy clown. The lack of a deeper narrative actually works in its favor, creating an unpredictable atmosphere where anyone can die at any moment. It's this randomness, the sense that Art could kill anyone at any time, that's what makes it so effective. You're not following the story, you're watching a massacre unfold. This film is memorable for its disturbing, almost voyeuristic kills with the infamous hacksaw scene. Art's use of a gun, a break from typical slasher rules, also adds to the unsettling and unpredictable nature of the first film. It's a move that catches you off guard, much like the film itself, unpredictable and relentless. The decision to have Tara, who seems to be the main character, die midway through is another bold choice. It's a film where the stakes feel real because they aren't tied to any particular narrative. It's just Art killing for the sake of killing. That simplicity is definitely one of the first film's greatest strengths. There's this gritty, almost grindhouse charm to its low-budget execution. The practical effects and Damien Leone's dedication to his craft shine through, with every kill scene meticulously designed to shock and disturb. It almost felt like a movie I wasn't supposed to be watching, something that pushed boundaries in a way that made me feel uncomfortable, yet compelled and entertained enough to see it through. Terrifier stands as a vicious, unfiltered introduction to Art the Clown, a bare-bones slasher that is a love letter to the grindhouse slasher era that will definitely leave a lasting impression for many, many years to come. But there is one movie on this list that left just a little bit of a bigger impression. Coming in at spot number 1, in first place, we have Terrifier 2, which came out in 2022 and currently has the highest score on Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at an 84%. Topping this list, Terrifier 2 takes everything that worked in the original and cranks it up to 11. It's bigger, bloodier. Look, where the first film kept things tight and terrifying, Terrifier 2 expands the world around Art the Clown, introducing a rich story with some supernatural elements that I may take just slight issue with, but overall the movie still manages to keep its edge. The bedroom scene is now burned into my memory even more than the first movie scene is with the hacksaw. It just would not end. This one you have the introduction of Lauren Lavera's Sienna Shaw, adding a new layer to the story and offering a final girl who can maybe stand toe-to-toe with Art. With this introduction, you also have the introduction of Sienna's family, and while the dynamic of Sienna's family might feel like a safety net at first, giving us characters who seem just a bit too safe, the film quickly shatters that illusion with the shocking shotgun death of Sienna's mom. God, if it didn't shock the hell out of me, that made up for introducing the safe characters and safe family dynamic. This movie really keeps you on your toes, more than 1 and even more than 3, making you care about these characters. Personally, I didn't really care about anybody in Terrifier 3. But here, at the very least, you really care for Sienna's family, even her friends, somewhat. All the deaths in this movie were fantastic, and all managed to feel effective in their own ways. Art's humor here also feels more on point, blending the horror with a twisted sense of fun that makes each scene both terrifying and oddly entertaining. This film is building something bigger, something more mythological, even as it delivers on the horror goods that fans expect. The Halloween setting here is used to full effect, just perfectly on point with the Halloween vibes. Honestly, Art's antics reached new heights of creativity and cruelty in this movie. After watching 3 and then rewatching all of them, I just still find myself feeling like the deaths are way more brutal here, and with Allie's extended torture scene in the bedroom, and Brooke's grisly end with the acid to the face, spike bat to the face, and her boyfriend getting stabbed in the dick. Just all of these really managed to stand out to me way more than any of the deaths in Terrifier 1 or 3, with the exception of the hacksaw scene and the shower scene. But beyond that, I think Terrifier 2 rules in terms of kills. The movie embraces its length, allowing moments to breathe while also keeping up a relentless pace. Terrifier 2 manages to be both a love letter to the slasher genre and a modern reimagining of what a slasher can be. It's a movie that feels like it's having fun while never losing its sense of danger. Art is at his funniest. You got Sienna as our newly established badass final girl, and ultimately the climax delivers everything you'd want from a horror showdown. maybe just a little bit too long, maybe just a little bit, but ultimately it's everything that you would want from an epic, big, bloodier slasher sequel like this. Terrifier 3 obviously is making a splash at the box office, but I'll never forget how it was leading up to the release of Terrifier 2 and all the hype and marketing that went into it. This movie taking the series from being an indie gem to a mainstream horror icon in the span of just a few years is extremely respectable and ultimately proves that Terrifier is a series that's here to stay. Alright guys, so that about wraps up this video. If you're new here, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It will really help the channel out a lot. We are super close to getting monetized here on this channel, so it would be deeply appreciated. It will really help the channel out a lot. I think my face is all but completely stiff now, so if you'll excuse me. But seriously though, of course, thank you guys so much for the support. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.